Hello, and welcome to this Price a Job tutorial. In this video, we'll be discussing the Soakaway module in Price a Job. To access the Soakaway module, navigate to the Drainage category in the module toolbar and select Soakaway, and create the module. Now it does depend on the type of building and where it is located, but generally, all the water from the roof and the driveway should drain into a soakaway. To make it easy, all you have to do is enter the surface area of the drainage area to be drained. In this case, let's say 100 square meters. Options for the soakaway include crates or stone. Depending on your circumstance, you may have rubble or hardcore on site left over from a demolition. You should check with your building control officer to see if it's allowed for the soakaway. Let's expand our sketch pane to full screen to get a better view. And let's switch to crate. Price a Job automatically calculates the volume required. If we compare crate to stone, we can see that the crate is much less volume required due to air gaps in the crate and the stones. As a formula, Price a Job is using about 1/3 as a default, and otherwise the volume is calculated based on the area to be drained. You also have the options to adjust the soakaway width, length, and depth. And let's say, for example, that you're working in an area where the water table is high, and you want a more shallow depth. We could adjust the depth to just 1 meter, and increase the width of our soakaway, say to 3.5 meters, and the length to 2.5. And we can compare the volume of our manual soakaway measurements to the volume required. Here's the volume selected, and the volume required, and it matches as OK. If we undersized our soakaway, say for example we only set a width of 1 meter, and also a length of 1 meter, we would see that the volume selected fails, because it does not meet the minimum volume required. In this case, we must increase the width, length, or depth of our soakaway. In this example, we could increase our length to 2.5 meters, and the system rates it as OK. Next, we'll specify the type of trench excavation, whether this is to be done by hand or machine. If using a machine, we can select the type of machine, and under the cog settings, update the specifications for productivity, delivery and collection costs, and fuel consumption per hour. Otherwise, the defaults are simply taken from the Price a Job library. Next, we can account for the disposal of soil. And if we'll be disposing of the soil on site, we can simply deselect this stage, as it's not required. But if we need to remove the soil, we'll select the disposal of soil stage and specify whether the load method will be done by machine or by hand. And we can compare the costs of each method. Price a Job will automatically calculate the volume of soil to be removed and estimate the number and size of skips required. If you wish, you can round this up to a whole number, and depending on the size of the hole, you may need a grab lorry or just a smaller skip. Next, we'll look at the membrane stage. Whether you're using a stone or crate, it should be surrounded by a membrane to protect against debris from the soil penetrating the crate or hardcore. And here from the select box, we can choose the type of membrane that we wish to use. Next, we can select the Soakaway crate style that we wish to use. And we have options here for either standard or recycled crates. Next, we can add any pipes, bends, or other fittings we might require. We simply select the library, choose our pipe size of 110, 160, or 200 ml pipe, and then select the fittings we need. In this case, we'll select a double socket bend 15 degrees and 45 degrees. And then we can set the quantity of the fittings required. Price a Job will automatically calculate for these fittings the labor required to install them. Each fitting has its own time estimate in the Price a Job library. We can update this estimate, or maybe just round up to the nearest hour. And the changes made here in the component stage are reflected here in the estimate pane. Next, we can specify our backfill, whether we're using soil or hardcore. We see a note here that backfill is not required, as the minimum backfill depth is 500 millimeters. However, if we were to adjust the soakaway depth to 2 meters, Price a Job would then calculate the backfill depth. In this case, it would be 700 millimeters. As we make our various changes, you'll notice that the description is automatically being updated with accurate descriptions of all materials and labor. and written clearly to be understandable by the customer. If we have several soakways to add, we can simply change the title for this one. We'll call this Soakaway for Driveway. And then we can duplicate this module. And then we can retitle this new module. We'll call this one Soakaway for Roof. And then quickly update the dimensions and settings required. And that's how to use the Soakaway module. Thank you for using Price a Job.